Hello guys and welcome to episode 11 of the Smeg Ups podcast, and today we are talking about the latest episode of series 12. It's episode 2, which is Siliconia. It follows the crew finding a ship entirely of Mechanoids who are from the Mechanoid Intergalactic Liberation Front with hilarious consequences. So what did you guys think of this episode?
Well, hi first of all. I loved it, to be honest. I think both series 11 and 12 have kind of got back to the roots of where Dwarf was coming from.
Yeah, they were filmed back to back as well, so...
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of, they've got into it when making series 10, which was kind of, I don't know, but 11 and 12 have really stepped it up, I think. As to the recent episode, I absolutely loved it. Gags, just like they used to be. You can see the chemistry between them coming back, because I think they lost it over the later series. But no, it definitely feels like it used to be, like the original Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely like they've come home again. It's just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, I can't really say much else, nothing else than that.
No, that's fine. We like positivity here. That's all good. Yeah, I liked it as well. I think for this one, for me, is a lot more memorable than I think. Because I think with the last series, I enjoyed them, but they didn't all stand out as much to me as some of the older ones used to. And I don't know if that's just because I've seen them so many times or because it was all new and you'd never seen anything like it before, because Red Dwarf's pretty unique in a lot of ways, being the sitcom in space. Yeah. But I think this one was pretty standout. I know it's the most expensive episode that they've made since bringing the series back on Dave, and just the amount of effort that went into creating all of those mechs, and I just really liked the idea of it. I thought they were really thinking big with this one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the amount of time it must have taken in Mask, just getting people to look right.
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, there must be a whole lot of more appreciation for what Kyten goes through by the rest of the cast right now. They must all suddenly they must share his pain and understand him in the same way as the characters now understand.
Definitely. I mean, they've got a little taste of what Robert Llewellyn has to go through all the time.
Yeah.
And I love it because they just bounce off each other. They're definitely.
Yeah. Can you think of a good point and a bad point about this one?
Good points, like I say, it's with the what did they call it again? The Mechanic Intergalactic Liberation Front. MILF. It's these puns, these word jokes that I've been missing out of a few of the later series up until 10, 11. It kind of went dull. They sort of tried to make things more effecty and that kind of thing, which wasn't what Red Dwarf was ever about. It was,
a lot of it was banter, wasn't it?
It's all bouncing off each other, and it's a bum in space. What more do you need to say about it?
Anything bad in this one for you?
Bad points. I don't know really.
No.
Personally, not really.
There doesn't have to be.
No, it's hard to define. Like I said, this episode I thought was absolutely brilliant. There's absolutely nothing really outstanding that would stick in my mind as being a bad point about it.
No, I agree. I mean, everything it's just fantastic. There was nothing bad about it, but there never has been, to be fair.
Just good and better, is that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a couple of episodes that some people don't like and don't appeal to others. But you can't make every episode appeal to everybody.
No.
But no, at the moment, they're really going well.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah, I think that this one was quite standout for me, and I did enjoy how big the ideas are in it, definitely. And I think that there was definitely better banter. They seem to be just sort of more jokes and more kind of keeping the hits coming with the jokes, and a bit more of the speed with the older episodes used to have, where they
Definitely.
just they always just had that kind of back and forth, back and forth. I think bad points for me, I think, might be the speed it wrapped up at the end. I think they just kind of were like, they're going to find this Siliconia, this amazing place, and I almost expected that place not to exist in the sort of Silicon heaven style. And then at the end they were like, here we are, yep, cool, done, upgraded, bye bye. And I was like, I was enjoying it, and I sort of almost felt like they'd run out of time a little bit there, and I think it needed another 5 minutes or something. But
there was,
I think that's the only bad point for me.
Definitely. I mean, I think it was a second episode in series 11 that they did a similar thing, but that was even more cut off. You know, you thought, okay, there's probably about 30 seconds left to go, and it just stopped and the credits ran, and it's like, okay. So, you know, it was sort of cut off, but not as badly as they have done in the past.
Yeah, I think they needed to make more of a joke of how quickly it wrapped up and be a little bit more self-aware, and that would have smoothed that out for me. But I think I think the only bad point is I wanted slightly more of it. That's really not too terrible.
Well,
That's not a bad thing.
I think we all want more Red Dwarf all the time. I've heard that Rob's also started on the scripts for Series 13, which is
Brilliant.
Something to look forward to, definitely.
Oh, of course. Half an hour just isn't long enough at all.
It'd be interesting to see if there's any feature-length versions of any of these episodes when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray, because with some of the older series, like the Back in the Red ones, there were slightly longer versions.
Yeah.
And they've said already of episodes in this series, they had to cut quite a bit out. So I think it might be interesting to see if we get some of those scenes back, and maybe there was a little bit more, because I would have liked a little bit more of the underdogs, the grunt work droids, and a little bit more of their world as well.
Yeah. Maybe on the cut scenes on the Blu-rays or something.
Yeah, that would have been cool to see, I think. And going back to one of the things you've already called up there, what did you think of the of the acronym MILF? They said it a lot.
Yes.
I just laughed. That's my contribution.
I think apart from anything, that was what got my first big laugh on the episode. You know, it was fairly standard up till there, and then it just, you know, you've always got this Red Dwarf feeling, but when that came in, it was just, you know, it just kind of totally broke the ice, and for the rest of the episode, I was just laughing my head off.
Yeah, it was just like, bam, there you go. Right, now we're off. That's it. No coming back from that.
I quite like the fact that nobody acknowledged within the episode that it was a funny set of letters to use.
Yeah, I mean, none
of the characters pointed out that the name was stupid.
Yeah, normally you'd get at least Lister turning around and going, "Excuse me," or
you know, they just ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, Rimmer comes up with a lot of acronyms that are put rather blandly, fairly, yeah.
Racy.
Yeah, definitely. But that one just took the biscuit, and then I think half of the joke about it was that nobody actually acknowledged it.
Yeah.
You were expecting something to come, and it just didn't.
Yeah, I did quite like that. They just kept saying it in a deadpan, serious voice, and I kept saying, "But when's one of them gonna?" And they just don't. They just leave you hanging.
Yeah.
I mean, how many takes do you think that took to actually get right?
There must be some Smeg Ups where they just can't keep straight faces, even under the prosthetics, keeping a straight face for that many shoutings. I mean, they're shouting it at the end as well. Just.
Brilliant.
Oh dear. So what did you think about having James Buckley in there, who's from the In-Betweeners?
Personally, I didn't know. I have to hang my head in shame here for not actually having watched any episodes of The Inbetweeners. But yeah, he carries it off really well, definitely. I don't know, like I say, because I haven't seen The Inbetweeners. Sorry. What kind of a guy he normally is, or standard roles that he plays, but I thought as a mech goes, he carried that off really well.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a bit. I thought he fit in very well. Yeah, definitely. It was one for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really watch things like The Inbetweeners, but I've seen him some stand-up stuff and some panel show kind of stuff. So he's obviously a very funny guy.
Yeah.
I thought he did a mech voice really, really well. And also the other main mech who was showing them around and so forth. I believe, looking on IMDb, that was Richard Glover, who's been in Into the Woods and things like that, and some other quite more serious films.
Yeah.
But I definitely recognised the voice. Had to Google that one after. But he was great as well. I thought he was wonderful as the mech resistance, La Resistance. I was definitely getting some South Park vibes coming through.
A little bit of aloe in there.
Yeah, just a little bit of that crossed with South Park, crossed with a bit classic Red Dwarf silliness going on.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of having the two different classes of mech?
I thought it was a wonderful idea, actually. Because it gives you more of an insight into how mech life kind of works, which you don't really think of it normally. Kyten's a 3000 series Mechanoid, but that there's different versions and that they split themselves up into different sort of
Groups,
rankings,
yeah.
Different groupings, different social standards. Just because
their heads were
had an
7
upgrade.
millimeters difference.
Exactly. I thought it was a wonderful idea. It's also kind of holds up a mirror to human interaction with each other, and just how smeggy we do get on with each other sometimes.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. But because it kind of opens up their world, and you get to see a lot more, rather than just one. Yeah, it was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I quite like the usage of preposterous metaphors and obvious metaphors in order to explain things. Because by having the two different classes of mech, and the difference being, I think it was 7 millimeters between the size of their heads and a cool matte finish on the paint job, it really calls out how preposterous such prejudices can be, and how arbitrary they look to anyone outside of that system. And it reminded me a tiny bit in the approach, not in the outcome, of a episode of the original Star Trek series called Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. And in that, the crew face up against a race of aliens, and they're literally painted down the middle of their face, half of it in white face paint and the other half in black face paint. And the lower class of alien race, who are slavery and subject to their rule, are painted the same but with the colours reversed. So they have the left one, the different, to the right one. And it's just so preposterous. And I felt this was quite a similar thing. It's like, but using, sort of more comedy as well, to just point out something very real, but through the medium of being absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I quite like that kind of thing. Bit of social commentary in there with your nonsense.
It's good. I think it's good to bring that kind of thing into comedy as well, because you can push it through the boundaries that you would normally be allowed to within political talks or whatever. You can
it's a
pull it
friendlier
through
way
to
of
absurdity without being taken down for it.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think it was a good thing to start having such ideas being put into the show and grounding it a bit more and making it a bit. I'm almost about to call Red Dwarf a thinking man's show there. I'm not quite sure how that's going to.
I'm not sure Lister would agree with you on that one. But,
I'm not sure Cat's capable.
Definitely.
And speaking of which of the crew, be it Cat, Lister, Rimmer, etc., do you think look best in a Kyten mask? Who was the best mech?
I think you could start on this one.
I like Cat. Oh my god. Yeah, definitely agree with Cat. Yeah, that's it. Oh, well, yeah.
I loved all of them. I like the way that they managed to keep the facial features of each of them, while still having the Kyten mask over the top. So they didn't just go for the usual Kyten, put your head in a tumble dryer form. But they kept the character's characteristics.
They did very much.
Mask.
I love the fact they kept the teeth on Cat when it was clearly redundant to do so. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely kept a lot of the personality and the facial features, and also as it's sort of an opposite point. I'm sort of diverging and tangenting off my own question here, but as an opposite point, when they are doing the tech administration to Kyten, they obviously have Kyten as the human on screen, as the automated, do you want to fix your Kyten antivirus software?
Has developed the following software.
And it honest to God, it took me a second of going, I know that person. Oh God, of course.
Yeah.
Because you only ever see him in the makeup. So I thought it was wonderful that they had everyone else was in the makeup, and then we get that shot of him out of it.
Yeah.
And you spend the whole episode going, oh, I see. So I think generally, Cat as a mech for looks wise.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
But they've done that with Robert Llewellyn a few times in previous episodes, that he's played various on-screen characters, shall we say?
I think this is probably my favourite because of the hair they put on him.
Yeah.
The kind of sort of 90s, 60s version of Max Headroom kind of look.
Yeah. Sledgehammer.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I thought that was really, really cool because it was just so silly, and it reminded me of the kind of what would Norton antivirus look like if it were a person. I think that was pretty good.
That's a nice one, yeah.
So Kyten's good out of his mask. Cat's the best in a mask. What about voices? Who do you think did the best mech voice?
I think just because, well, he's such a good at voice impersonations anyway.
I know where you're going. I'm going to agree.
It's got to go to Rimmer.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Matt on this one. Definitely, it threw me. It really threw me. I was like, really? That's no, that can't be. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a universal one. He is so good at doing impressions and doing those kind of voices. It's just it's kind of hands down. I think when it comes to voices, I think that the range in Rimmer is the best. But when it comes to faces, that expression that Lister whenever they empty his brain, they've done it a few series now. They did one where they gave him a brain enema and put another personality in.
Yeah,
and then in this one, it's this one where, again, when they're taking the brain out of him here, and he manages to pull this expression with sort of one half crossed eye, and
I love it.
It's amazing. I wish I could do that.
I don't know how long he must have practiced to get that one right. But
that's a niche skill.
Definitely.
And the fact that they imply Cat's brain is empty with the scanning.
Yeah, on that one, I think being a cat he doesn't actually have to, he doesn't burden himself with everyday problems that the rest of the crew do. He's a cat. He does what he wants. He doesn't care about anything, so he doesn't have anything to download.
Yeah.
Apart from not caring and not really, in quotation marks, having a brain. I just don't think he cares about anything enough, apart from himself, of course.
Of course.
To warrant downloading anything.
No, I mean, cats are cats. They live for the moment. They don't store rubbish up there. So, yeah.
But, I mean, he's shallow enough anyway. So.
Yeah, narcissism and color coordination is basically what makes up the cat brain.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. He's probably the smartest of them all. Hidden.
I wouldn't go that far.
I want to hear where this is going.
I'm interested now.
Go
on, dig yourself out.
Yeah, I can't dig myself out. I just think he's very smart.
He's smart enough to have stopped caring. Nice.
Exactly.
He knows in this economy none of us can afford to buy property, and he's no. I don't think Cat's entire personality is a complete political statement. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't know where the both of them got the idea from originally, but to carry it on for so long and to still have stories coming out that are new and ingenious and put different twists and actually, they still make the characters bounce off each other. It's I find that fairly amazing.
Yeah,
it is pretty good. There's just the simple visual things they do. They're picking up the guitar with that little grabber like you have in an arcade. And it's just funny because originally in the old episodes, they'd have something like that because they couldn't afford anything. Now they have something like that so they can make a gag that there's a bigger and better ship who's just going to do the same to them because they're so insignificant and silly themselves that they're part of a visual gag. And I do like things like that, definitely. But they really do. We're really invested in the characters and they're invested in the characters and they're still evolving them. They're still, because they're getting older and their characters are changing. And just because I was watching it the other day, I was rewatching some of the Back in the Red ones, and then they meet up with the Rimmer that's on the ship that the nanobots have remade. And he's like, oh, you're like the old Rimmer, you're like he used to be. And then he's sort of like, oh yeah, he has evolved. And watching these episodes, they've all evolved again. And
I keep going back to the original series. As everybody does, I think, watching on DVD and everything, and it doesn't. If you watch them through chronologically, there we go. Then the transition through the episodes isn't quite so noticeable as if you watch series 1 and then go straight to series 11. And you see,
it's very natural.
Whoa, how different they are. It's just like they're almost two different characters. But if you watching them chronologically, you get this transition, and it's not so noticeable.
But they're still the same characters. It just feels like they have grown up. He pointed out that this whole thing of Rimmer going through his speech about saying how he looked at the fish tank enviously gives you a reason for why he wrote I am a fish 100 times on his exam papers.
Yes.
And I hadn't even clicked to that until he said it. But yeah, of course, they've now given us a reason that sort of suddenly changes that past episode into something quite tragic, where before you were just like, I am a fish, that's really funny. Now you're like, okay, that's going back to his childhood and it's really traumatic and am I allowed to laugh at that anymore now?
It took quite a while for the penny to drop on that one with me as well. But it does kind of show you that he's not quite such a screw up as you think. There's a lot more going on mentally there than he lets on half the time.
Well, it's all defences. It's a pompous defences exterior of how he thinks he should act.
Yes.
And you kind of always have an inkling of that. Otherwise, he'd be completely unwatchable as a character.
Definitely. he would, I think, make the series go downhill very quickly if there wasn't that integrated.
Well, they're all extremely flawed characters, and that's kind of the point. And having a comical, massive, obvious flaw is obviously a trope used a lot in sitcom, but I think it's done very well in Red Dwarf because they all are more lovable. I find a lot of other sitcom-y type formulas, I get sick of people, or I just think like the cast of Friends should probably all be thrown into a volcano. But with Red Dwarf, I find that despite their faults, they are still all just somehow more relatable, even though they're in space and they're all Muppets. It's somehow, there's just something more lovable about those characters. And I quite like the fact about this episode as well, that it picks up on one of the major flaws that a lot of them have, which is the way they're using Kyten, because he is so willing to do these things. And despite all Lister's helping him break his programming and evolve, he does still get him to bring him his beer, and, you know, the whole thing with the shall I bring the monitor over, shall I unscrew it from the wall and bring the monitor over, which for me definitely made them feel like they definitely earned their punishments in this one.
Yeah. Would you get me a beer? Do you want me to come over and get it for you? Get it yourself. Oh, do I have to?
I mean, what did you think of the punishments?
I liked it, I have to say. I also like the bit of where they start losing their personalities through having to do it.
Yeah.
It was definitely an interesting twist on it. And the fact that at first they were like, no, I don't want to. And then through doing it, they started liking it and kind of getting a purpose out of it, which they don't have as being human, which was a lovely twist.
Do you think it's going to help them in future? Do you think they will have developed an appreciation, or do you think next episode they're going to be straight back to getting Kyten to do all the
ideas? Probably not, no. No, they're just going to be the absolute same. Yeah, it wouldn't be them. there is no point.
If Lister, well, if the cat even started appreciating what other people did for him,
ironing all his frills,
he wouldn't be the cat.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that might be medically. Do you think it's likely Lister's going to start maybe getting his own beers, or do you think that giving the oil at the end was a one-off token gesture?
I think he may, well, because Lister's Lister, he may, you know, get his beers for like a week or so, but he'll remember being the old bum that he is.
Of course, yeah. With all, as for with the jobs, Cat made me laugh when he started enjoying, you know, well, he didn't really start enjoying his ironing, did he? But all them shirts, I think he should actually start appreciating all that they do for him.
Well, he used to wash his own shirts in the earlier episodes. They used to make a joke of him doing his laundry by licking all of the shirt collars and things. So maybe he'll start doing that again.
Oh God, well, I don't
maybe
know.
Daddy John-Jules just won't lick shirts anymore. Like maybe he gets danger money for that. I don't know.
I know. But Lister definitely made me laugh. You know, that long table with all the toast and stuff. Definitely. But like I say, when the personalities sort of started disappearing, that was quite good. You know, the way they sort of ebbed them out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they were definitely they were simple but effective choices that were very entertaining to watch. The trowel with the butter or whatever for the sandwiches, I thought was a lovely touch.
Yeah.
And obviously
I'll just plaster the sandwiches.
What did you think of the end of it? There's been a suggestion by by Mark on the notes here that would it have been better as a two-parter and having them take over the run of the mech ship, maybe have turned Kyten back into a human again to have a bit of a reverse situation?
I'm not sure really. I think turning Kyten back into a human again, as they did it once already with DNA, where he got into being human and having his double Polaroid.
Of course.
It's if you do too much of it, I think it would overpower it, because the whole point of Kyten is to be the Mechanoid. His character as a human, I don't feel personally, while it does throw up a few interesting gags, I don't think long term or for more than a couple of episodes at the most, I don't feel it works too well.
No.
Yeah. You think the same, Rachel?
Yeah, I absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with like what he's just said. I'd be repeating myself. Yeah, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. It just. Yeah, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for.
Kyten is a pedantic excuse me. Kyten's a pedantic sanitation droid. That's what he does. If you if you make him too human, the character doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that he does not work as human at all. No.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if you guys have seen an episode of Star Trek Voyager a long time ago.
This will be Matt, not me.
Yeah, but they had their hologrammatic doctor. He was supposed to be an emergency medical hologram, and he was left on so long that all his program, expanded rather than broke in his case, and he became a full person. And then one day they had him get transferred back, and he met the human that he was based on. And it almost would have been fun to have sort of borrowed that idea, inspired by that idea, and perhaps had the human meet Kyten, rather than Kyten turn back into a human, but the human that the Mechanoids were based on, perhaps, be introduced to them, their original creator.
That would be a brilliant episode, I think.
Well, let's hope they hear this and go and do it.
I mean, it's not exactly possible. Listen up. We've got ideas for you.
Stick our name in the credits, Red Dwarf.
I mean, it would be fairly difficult considering that they're 3 million years out into deep space, but...
Well, it could be a hologram of the original mech creator as some kind of debug or this is your god kind of situation.
Yeah, that would work. I like that.
I think that could be quite fun. So who knows? Maybe they will work that one in. So comparing this one to last week with episode 1, do you think this was better?
Yeah.
Multiple mechs is better than singing Hitler.
No.
Oh, I've started a domestic.
One thing that I have to wonder about the first episode of Series 12, Lister isn't meant to be able to play the guitar.
Yes, that came up in the YouTube comments as well. People are very confused, and I was wondering if they were going to address that one.
Yeah.
And they haven't.
Suddenly he's able to jam with the best of them, worst of them.
He had lessons from Hitler, and we didn't see that bit.
Well, he couldn't play again this episode.
Sorry?
His ability seemed to have gone back to normal this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were going to imply that somehow it was his guitar that was holding him back the whole time and things, and that he could play. If you gave him any other guitar, he was perfectly fine. It's just because he had all the same strings on his or something. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Aren't they all G, I think?
Something like that, yeah. One missing and the rest of them were G or something. It's quite a few series back where he explained it. But now with the guitars all retuned and look suspiciously like a completely different guitar. But yeah, it It does, because I know what guitar that one was, and I can't remember what his original guitar was, but I'm sure it was covered in stickers, the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's definitely a Les Paul. Which is a much more expensive guitar.
I think in the original series he even had an acoustic guitar in the corner. And now you only see him with an electric one, so...
Maybe Rimmer smashed some other ones we didn't notice.
Very probable.
Exactly. You never know what happens when...
I've got the scutters to trash them, you know.
Yeah, I wanted more scutters. I miss the scutters.
Yeah, me too. And
I think that's one of my only complaints about new stuff, is that I genuinely loved the scutters.
They were brilliant.
Yeah.
It's this... They brought a bit of slapstick into it.
Well, they used to go and watch movies in the cinema and pretend to be cleaning the seats, didn't they?
Yeah. Or give you the V sign by turning the head upside down.
Yeah. That's going to be my new complaint. Not enough scutters. Most of my complaints are not in long enough episode. Not enough story. I wanted more, and more scutters. I want the Scutter Liberation Front. Where they all just sit and watch movies. For them. Yeah, we'll have to come up with something highly suspicious as an acronym for them. It could easily become a running joke.
To bring us to another missing character, which I'm sure a few people will have heard about him coming in a later episode of this series. Holly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Original Holly too.
Exactly. Norman Lovett.
Yes. I adore both Hollies. I'm not going to, be Hollyist and start taking Holly sides, but there was something about, him, his performance that I always loved, especially when he downgraded himself as a joke for April Fools, and I can't remember the name of the one he gave to take the ship over.
Queek 9000. Yes,
that's the one. And when he was just going around the halls on the TV screen with a little flashlight, I loved that so much.
I'm a night watchman.
I go down the hallway, I turn my little torch on, I turn my little torch off, it's all right, life. I adored that, and I think that it would be wonderful to bring that back into the dynamic as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that one.
Definitely. I mean, half of his character was just being even, for want of a better word, stupider than Cat.
Yeah, if that's possible.
He can also make the phrase "You're right, dudes" sounds as uncool as humanly possible.
Exactly. It's just the deadpan delivery. Norman Lovett was absolutely perfect for the character of Holly. I'm not wanting to say that our later Hollies were any worse, but
they were very different.
Yes, I think actors bring different qualities to characters that they play, of course. But I think
can't beat the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not sitting on the fence with that one, are you, Rachel?
there's only one Holly.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, controversial. Well, this one may have been Hollyless, but it was definitely full of incredible prosthetics and some pretty cool CGI, actually, for Red Dwarf. And being the most expensive episode of the Dave era, how would you rate this one out of 5?
Not to want to be at top marks, because there's always space to get better. Whether you're there is whether you're classic Red Dwarf or all up for the new one, there's always a little bit that somebody's not gonna like. It's a 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's a 5 from me.
Yeah.
It has to be. Yeah.
Full 5 stars and a smiley face.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 because I felt that they probably realised they didn't have quite enough episode left to sort of finish the story, but I did greatly enjoy everything that was in it. So I definitely enjoyed that one. Anyone got any final thoughts on this one? I'm going to take that as a no.
Bring us the next one.
Bring us the next one. That's good. I like it.
Bring it on.
More Dwarf.
Yeah.
More Dwarf, more boys from the Dwarf, please. I think that's a very good place to wrap this one up. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I have been Bex Trista. Also, we have had Matt and Rachel here on Red Dwarf TV. If you like this, please subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can get notifications when we do our next podcast on the next episode, and a load of other cool Red Dwarf interviews and videos. And we will see you guys soon. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I shall assume we are good to start. Otherwise, I'm just vaguely talking into the void. The sort of question rough list and things.
Yeah.
Roughly, yeah, we had a scan through early, didn't we?
Okay,
Just,
cool.
yeah, sticking kids to bed, it kind of gets in the way sometimes.
Of everything.
Yeah.
That's just not just reading a Word doc, that's like everything.
Yeah.
The last one we did was half an hour long, so it's not going to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you are exhausted if you have a small little screaming thing.
Yes.
It's not too bad. It's
It's
well, not
asleep.
for me anyway. I don't get up in the middle of the night.
No.
I sleep through it.
Yeah.
I'm like Lister. I could sleep through an atomic bomb.
I already hate you, so that's a good start.
Yay, she's on my side.
So I shall do that, and then I'll ask the questions, and we'll answer them just kind of in turn. If Matt answers them first, and then Rachel answers them, and I'll answer them. That just makes it. That just makes it. I've not put you first. You said be gentle.
Please.
I put me last, which means I've got to come up with something you both haven't just said. So that's the difficult one.
Hey.
I also do not know what episode this is. That was one thing I was supposed to check. What episode is this of our podcast? Is it episode 11 of the podcast? Okay.
Episode 11. No, it is. I'm just
11.
looking at the Smegcast chat. It's episode 11.
Yes. Cool.
with
Yes, it's at the top.
MILF.
Just spotted it. And it's episode 2 of series 12. Way too many numbers for me. All good?
I hope so.
We'll soon find out.
Oops, I'll just. Yeah. Oh. Sit
I
down,
don't know if
you.
the bloopers reel for this, but they might need to start. Are you in need of an ambulance or all okay?
I think I'll lie on the floor and slowly die, but I can answer questions.
Cool. You've only got to live another half hour. It's fine. Today we are talking about the latest episode of Series 12. It's episode 2, which is Siliconia. It follows the crew... Sorry, you have to edit that bit. It follows the crew finding... Yes, that did indeed record, and he hasn't just gone and made a very long cup of tea. But yes, I lost track of the time on that one. We might have gone slightly over half hour there, but
Possibly.
we went off on some tangents.
It's now 9:04.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember when we actually started properly recording, because we had so much sorting stuff out at the beginning there. I'm sure it's fine. Hopefully Mark will say that is the case.
I'm just turning my airplane mode back off.
Why did you do that?
Mark wrote, sorry I fell asleep, nothing recorded.
Snake hit!
Yes, I believe that is the appropriate response to that one.
Yeah.
It is all recorded.
Well done.
Awesome. Right, shall I let you guys go and get some much needed parental sleep?
Sleep? What's
Sleep.
that?
Well, I don't recognise that word. What is it?
It's a mysterious thing that people without children or pets do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't get that.
You'll find out what it is in about 18 years.
I I know.
Oh dear.
I know.
What? No, I love kids. I'm being mean. I'm just being mean. I've not seen
Yeah, you
my
just
nieces
can't-
and nephews in ages, and I look forward to the lack of sleep because they are utterly worth it. But
Yeah, I agree.
You love kids. You just can't enjoy more than one at the mealtime.
I do quite well two of them. I've dealt with two of them simultaneously at mealtimes. Mostly by holding carrots onto my nose and pretending to be a snowman and letting them eat the carrots off my nose.
Nice.
Okay.
It was the only way to get them to eat their vegetables.
Brilliant.
Also, I pretend broccoli are tiny trees.
Yes, I do that.
And proclaim they can't possibly be food, and they must be trees. Yeah. I'm good at getting them to eat the veg.
Yeah, it works.
It does.
Okay,
I've been berated by one of my best friend's little kids because I just proclaimed loudly in the supermarket that they had trees in the supermarket, which was the broccoli, and he thought I was very stupid. But he did eat the broccoli, so I win.
Exactly, it works. So you do what you have to do as parents.
Oh yeah. Well, even just as an auntie, it's like the amount of pairs of socks I've pretended to put on my head or my hands. In order for them to show me that actually they go on your feet, because it's the only way to get them to put socks on so you can take them to nursery. It's like if anyone walks in and I'm there with like a sock hanging off each ear, it's just...
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
Well, maybe for you.
Of course.
Mm.
Do you not just do that anyway? I did
that.
that before I even went around kids. I just wore socks on my ears anyway.
Why
It's
not?
the-
Keeps them warm.
Yeah. Yeah, saves money on
very
ear
much like I am a fish to me.
Well, I might be. You can't see me.
Blub.
Maybe I am a fish. Right. Well, thank you very much, guys. You were awesome. Hopefully we can
Thank
get
you.
you guys on again for another one.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully I'll be able to talk a bit more this next time and not sit there like a shaking dog.
Slash fish.
Yes, like what? Yes.
Yeah, I'll make sure you watch the box set another 3 or 4 times till then.
Oh God. Okay. Yay!
Yeah, it is all good. You guys did great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm gonna head off, and yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon.
You will do.
Have a good
Take
evening.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.